6 years ago, in 2020, Donald Trump made a prediction about Iran. He said Iran never wins a war, but Iran never loses a negotiation. Tonight, 110 days of war and one peace deal later, those words have come back to haunt him. Because if you read the fine print of the memorandum between Washington and Tehran, one thing becomes clear. The war has ended, but Tehran did not bend. The regime has survived. The missile program survives. The nuclear infrastructure survives. Iran gets sanctions relief. Iran gets access to frozen assets. Iran gets its oil back on global markets. And Iran also gets a $300 billion reconstruction framework. Think about it. Donald Trump, the man who wrote The Art of the Deal, went to war demanding unconditional surrender, but ended up signing a deal that looks less like Tehran's capitulation and more like Washington's surrender.
Yes.
Bravo. Good job. Great job.
They attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas. If other countries have them, it's a little bit unfair for them not to have some. A ballistic missile is not the same thing as what we're talking about when we talk nuclear. But if Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and they all have some, I would say in relative proportion, I think it's something.
$1 billion reconstruction fund funded by Gulf allies. That's false.
It's false. People, you can invest if you want. I mean, what am I going to do? Say nobody's ever allowed to invest? No, we're not investing. We're not putting up 10 cents, and people can decide to do that, but that's up to them.
A wise man once said in January of 2020, Iran never won a war, but never lost a negotiation. That wise man.
Who said that?
Donald Trump.
No, that's what I thought you were going to say.
You're watching the News Hour at 9, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Joining me on the debate on the News Hour tonight, Ajol Franco, Republican strategist and former surrogate for Donald Trump's 2016 and 2024 presidential campaigns. Also joining us, Lieutenant General KJS Dillon, former GOC 15 Corps. But my first question goes to Milad Rabbani, former Iranian diplomat. And Mr. Rabbani, my question to you is just simple. Who's won this war? Finally, who gains more, Iran or the United States?
If you ask me this question, definitely I can tell you not America and nor Iranian regime, none of them were the winner of this war. And the winner of this war was China. China, with their policy of tolerance and waiting for the processes to be concluded, they are winner of this war, because I know the Chinese policy is based on observing the processes in the world. But in the world of policies, people like Donald Trump, who wants to, who observe the politics, the world of politics as a project, and they want to manipulate that, and they want to start the wars against other countries, and they want to destroy a civilization. Definitely, they are the loser, as we are observing that. And I believe this agreement, this deal is very, very fragile. And from now on, we can observe two things in the region and even in the United States, that the Donald Trump will be in a very bad position, and it's the time for the American lawmakers to stop him, because as he is,
the ink on the signature hasn't dried, and you've said that it is a fragile deal. Well, that is a worrying point. But Mr. Franco, how does President Trump call this a victory for America? Well, it was supposed to be a total capitulation of Iran, and that didn't quite happen. Iran has its oil back on world markets, sanctions lifted, $300 billion for reconstruction, nuclear program where it is. How has America won?
Well, let me begin, thank you, by saying what you said at the beginning in your introduction is accurate. I'm not here to spin. I am a free man in a free country. I am a Trump supporter, as you correctly said, but many of us in the Republican Party are very concerned about this so-called deal. The other guest who just spoke is right. The real winner here is China for a variety of reasons. But here are the facts we can look at that are positive from the U.S. standpoint. Iran is degraded significantly, economically and militarily. That's a fact. That is a good thing for the United States. But it's like a weed, a bad plant. It can come back. The objectives of this war or conflict were never really met. I think President Trump desired a regime change. That was not his goal. That was certainly Prime Minister Netanyahu's goal. But the fact is, where we are now on the uranium issue is very different, not very different from where we were before the war started, which is Iran has always said it's not going to develop a nuclear weapon, and we were insisting on better verification. And we didn't get that response. We went to war. Now that is still to be negotiated. So we're very concerned. I and many Republicans on Capitol Hill are voicing our concerns. The other guest said it's fragile. He's right. Many of us believe this agreement will not hold, that it will be politically necessary for President Trump. Remember, this runs through September 17th and then will be extended. After the midterm elections, I would not be surprised if the conflict resumes. Because it's premised on one thing.
Well, but we hear the chorus of MAGA, Make America Great Again, and not many are convinced about the greatness of America and the victory for America in this deal. But Lieutenant General Dhillon, how do you look at this? Of course, the world is, breathing easy today just because we see a reprieve in the war, which was disturbing economies across the globe. But do you think this is fragile, as Mr. Rabbani says, or do you think we can look forward to some degree of stability in West Asia?
Navika ma'am, good evening, and good evening to the fellow panelists and all your viewers. First of all, let me clarify 2-3 things. One is when nations go to war, they have a very clearly defined national and political aim. And once they achieve that national aim or political goal, that is when they say, okay, we have won this war. Now, America went to this war with a declared aim of regime change, which changed after a few days to denuclearization of Iran. And it kept shifting. On 7th of April, it came down to opening of Strait of Hormuz, which was in any case open before 28th of February. So America's declared national aim of regime change and denuclearization both have not been achieved. Now come to Israel. Israel went to war with an aim of decimating the proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, as also causing maximum destruction to Iran, which was supporting those proxies, and Israel brought in USA to assist him in that aim. Israel's aims have been partially achieved, but not fully. The job is still half done.
Okay.
And that statement is important. Job is still half done, especially in relation to Hezbollah. And now come to Iran. Iran did not want to fight the Americans on the high seas. It did not have aircraft carriers because he knew he cannot match the might of American military or navy. He did not have a very strong air force because he knew he can't match the Americans and Israelis in the air.
Yes.
Iran prepared for 40 years. Iran prepared for 40 years for this war, which it fought, and his aim was to survive this war. survive this war with
Absolutely.
the leverages?
The only thing that the world got in return was a battered economy across the world, oil prices, and that shock that will last a long time in terms of its impact. But the fact that Iran could bring everybody to the peace deal table, well, that in itself is being seen as a victory. What did America gain? Whether this is fragile or not, well, we'll keep watching this space for more. For tonight, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me on the News Hour. Good night, viewers. Be safe. I'll be back tomorrow on the News Hour at 9.